HappiDaze here, and last night Bandai just dropped this huge nugget of information on us, which is the characters that we're expecting for the Fearsome Foe Beginning Sugo Fest that we're going to get as part of this month. Now, this booster is going to be used for the upcoming PKA for the month, so he will be a booster, and that guy is Blackbeard, and all his ink effects are right in front of you. So let's go ahead and dive into what Blackbeard can do. We'll see if he's any good. Is he the best legend in the game? Or is he just mid-beard? Let's go ahead and dive into his different specials, his stats, GP to see if he's any good and worth pulling on. So I haven't had a chance to really go through this yet, so bear with me as I kind of read through some of this for the first time. But let's go ahead and open up his special first and see what his captain ability is. Pursuing the Love Fruit. So basically it allows crews normal attacks to ignore barriers, so that's good. He cancels all crew's defensive effects. That's just kind of whatever. It's not bad. But the allowing normal attacks to go through barriers or go through defensive effects is pretty awesome. You don't have to worry about Rainbow Shield and things like that. So that's actually a really, really awesome captain ability to have. And then he boosts Driven Powerhouse character attack by 5, HP 1.2. That's kind of low. I'm also surprised they don't have like a cooldown on there as well, which is kind of disappointing, but it kind of guess it is what it is. And he makes the crew's Dex, Quick, and Tandem slots have matching slot effects. Okay, so that's interesting. I don't know his typing, but we'll see it on the next page. Just go quickly check. Okay, so he's a strength unit. So it's kind of weird that as a strength unit, he makes Dex, Quick, and Tandem slots match. But okay. And then if the crew has a Fighter, Slasher, Striker, and Shooter class, boost Driven and Powerhouse characters attack by 5.75. That's much better than the 5. I wish it would have been 5.75 to start out with as a base, and maybe got up to 6 if you had all these conditions, or maybe even 6.25. I think that would have been a little bit better. So, and having all these combinations, so what I'm guessing here is that his batch is going to be coming out with him. And I know I've seen the details for a couple of the units, but I haven't really had a chance to dive into what they do. But I'm pretty sure, or I'm guessing that all the units that are in his batch will kind of satisfy the condition of having some of these other classes in here, right? So you can already see, Shooter, Van Augur, Fighter is probably Burgess. So like I said, I bet with his whole batch, you'll be able to satisfy this condition and get the 5.75 boost. And when you apply a damage threshold effect with the special, converts the effect to boost damage dealt to increase damage taken enemies by 2.25 for one turn. That is good, but the only thing that I don't see here is usually if it goes through immunity, it will be spelled out. It's not spelled out here, so if the enemy has immunity, then unfortunately you won't get this benefit, which is kind of a bummer there. So that's his captain ability. So let's go into his special and see what his special can actually do. Darkness of Despair. So if the enemy's damage reduction or damage threshold status has 6 or more turns remaining when the special is launched, applies increased damage taken to all enemies by 2.25 for one turn, ignoring immunity. So that part's good. That is pretty high. Like having like 6 turns of Rainbow Shield or damage threshold either means that we're going to gain a lot of content that has super high buff counts, or there's got to be some way to kind of trigger this, just because that's really high. Even today, you don't have many stages that will have enemies that have that much debuffs. And you lose that whole increased damage taken if you don't have that. So I'm guessing that as we go on, we might find something that will help kind of make that possible. And then if crew has 5 or more of the same slots from Strength, Dex, Quick, Recovery, and Tandem, it boosts Strength, Driven, and Powerhouse characters. It says common icon slots, but that's really just orbs by 3 times for 3 turns. Cannot be removed by crew or enemies. That's pretty fantastic. The fact that you can get 3 turns of boosted orbs and it can't be removed, that's actually pretty good. I like that special. And it also does a small attack boost of 0.25 and changes character slot, including block to tandem. So that'll be interesting. I wonder what kind of effects he's going to have. I think I might have saw real quick that he had a tandem potential ability, so we might have a super tandem, but we'll see in just a minute. And if you have 5 or more of the same slots, so the one thing I don't like about this 5 or more of the same slots is you got to have characters that are going to have to do that. So that means like kind of one special or one super type is going to be devoted just to getting everyone to have the same slots in order to either get this 3-turn orb boost, or if you have a block, psi, or int, or if everyone has block, or if there are 5 or more that have block, psi, and int, you basically get empty slots. So that's interesting, kind of like the Corazon Law unit that's there with empty slots, and changes the attack multiplier of empty slots to 2.25. Usually it's only one time for 3 turns. So that's good in that if for that first turn, that will hit hard, and that's good. But then after the next turn, you'll just go back to having type slots again, or quick, or tandem, or recovery, or any of those things, right? And then this buff is kind of useless. So it's kind of weird that they would just empty your slots and then not give you a good way to then use it for turns 2 or 3, unless you had another character to empty those slots. I don't know if they expect you to use like a double Blackbeard, so you have a couple. I don't know. That kind of is weird to me about this whole empty slot gimmick for 3 turns. If you had a way to keep the empty slots for multiple turns, that would obviously be better. Even if it said like boost the chance of not getting slots or removing your slots, I think that would be better. So I just think that that's kind of a missed opportunity there. And then he boosts strength, driven, and powerhouse characters orbs by 3 times for 1 turn. So unfortunately, you don't get like the 3 times for 3 turns if you had strength, dex, quick, recovery, or tandem. So you only get it for 1 turn, which is kind of a bummer. You can't carry it to the next stage. But once again, for that 1 turn, you're going to be doing just a bunch of damage. And then after that, boost strength, driven, and powers characters orb effects by 2.75 for 1 turn. Oh, okay, so that actually is nice. So it's really a 2 turn, even though the first turn is 3 times, then second turn and then will be 2.75. So I actually don't mind that. That's not as terrible as I thought it was originally. It was for 1 turn. So the fact that you can just get that, you don't have to do any special tapping or anything like that. It's just nice that you'll get that 2.75 for the following turn. And again, implies increased damage taken to enemies by 1.75 for 1 turn. Again, doesn't mention ignoring immunity. So that's just one thing you have to watch out for when you're going through that. So overall, captain ability, I like the normal attacks going through defensive effect. I think that's great. Everything else is just kind of mid. In terms of the special, it's a really gimmicky special. I like the fact that you can get 3-turn orb boost for that with 3 times is pretty awesome. I do like that. Not so much sold on the whole empty slot premise there. So is what it is. So let's go ahead and dive into things like his base stats and what he can do for support and what barriers he has on him. Or potential abilities he has on him. So if I look at Blackbeard, he is a driven powerhouse strength unit. He does have a super class, and it looks like for potential abilities, he could do attack, barrier, and a super tandem. So yeah, I mean, kind of your standard. Like I said, the barrier's always good. We'll have to see how that ends up working. Like I said, I don't know if it's one of the HP ones where you have to have 100% HP in order to be able to go through barriers, but we'll see what happens there. So let's go check out his crewmate abilities real quick. So driven characters base stats by 70. It's kind of it's kind of mid. And double damage from normal attacks dealt by characters to quick enemies. So I'm guessing that on the PKA that's coming up, that the boss might be quick focused, just to help do some damage there. Or if there's, I think I saw mention that there might be a blitz associated with this. So if there is, one of the bosses might be quick, but usually they give you this because it's coming up in a piece of content shortly, and they want you to have that advantage there. So base sets are just kind of whatever. For the support effect, at level 5, he gives a defense. He removes defense up by 3 turns, which is, let me just say, if this special was just by itself, it's probably one of the top maybe 5 in the game for support effects at least. There's not a lot of units that can remove multi-turns of defense up, but what just kills the support effect is that you have to have members of his crew on there, and Aokiji it looks like is on there as well. But it just, none of these units are good, right? I mean, when was the last time you've used any of those units, like I said, outside of maybe the Aokiji and maybe the Shiru? I've seen them in some pieces of content, but outside of that, you never see any of these other characters out there. So it's just a bummer that he has such an awesome support effect, but it can only go on so little useful characters there. So disappointing on the support effect. On the super tandem at level 5, you need 2 characters, and again, it's his whole Blackbeard crew and Aokiji at the end there. So a bummer again. You need 2. That means you have to devote a couple useless units to doing that. So it's just a bummer that you have to go that way. But it does a attack boost of 2.5 driven powerhouse for 1 turn, and increases slot effect boost by 0.25. So, I mean, the attack boost is okay, I guess. But like I said, the activation effects are just so restrictive and hard that you won't see a lot of play, I don't think, with this unit because of his super tandem effect and because of what you have to do to kind of get the ideal setup, right? They're going to force you to really pull the whole batch if you want to do the most damage. We get it. That's Bandai. It's how it works. But it's kind of a bummer that they went that route and kind of forcing you to use just these characters there. He does have a super class. You only need, it looks like, 1 character, which is good, and it's any of the Blackbeard crew. Or you can have 5 other characters with the provoked attack boost, receive damage up resistance, potential ability. I hate these. Like, this came out with, there's been a couple units that have come out recently where they had like this or condition, right? And it's just a stupid one with potential abilities. I hate these or conditions where it has potential abilities just because they're you're never going to put 5 units that'll blend or gel well together that will really have these potential abilities on there, like I said, unless it's a complete batch, for example. So it's just a pain that they put this on there. So that's just my personal rant over. And let's see what he does. He applies 80% damage reduction status on enemies for 6 turns. So if I'm reading this right, it sounds like you're giving a rainbow shield to your enemies, which is okay. Now I'm seeing on the brain's clicking. I'm seeing, so they want you to be able to use the super class so that you can go ahead and use the special to do that activation that's here to get that 2.25 boost, ignoring immunity. Okay, so I was wondering why they're having you buff, your enemies. It just didn't quite make sense, but now it kind of makes sense. So they're putting the super class so you can help trigger that first condition of your special. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it kind of feels like it also does other stuff, right? It looks like it reduces the defense up by 6 turns, which is also great. Boosts the effects of super class of driven characters by increasing the base attack boost effect to 1.5. That is actually pretty good. Like, you might almost say, hey, it's only a 0.3 increase, but that actually is really good. That's probably better than some buffs that you could probably add to make your damage output better. So that's fantastic. I actually really like that part of his kit. I think that's awesome. And like I said, with 2, you'll basically get like 50% more damage, right? 0.6 more than you would if you didn't. So that's fantastic. I like that. I love that. I think that's a great addition there. It is only for 1 turn, so you only have kind of 1 turn to do a burst, which isn't the end of the world, but just keep that in mind, and you get your driven characters into super driven. So that's, the super class, like I said, once you get over the whole gimmick of having to give the enemy a buff to then, be able to use your special to get some increased damage, kind of whatever. And I know because of Blackbeard's captain ability, you can go through Rainbow Shield, so it doesn't really matter how much Rainbow Shield he has. You can just kind of go through it. But still, it's just a weird mechanic that you have to help your opponent to help yourself, right? I would have rather given another buff that you could have got that would just help you out. Maybe an attack boost somewhere in there because we have orbs as part of his special. Maybe it would have been nice to do maybe an attack boost instead there, but it is what it is. So that is kind of his basic PvE kit. So let's check out his PvP kit. See if he's any better. So going here, let's just check what his base stats are. So he gives strength teammates HP up level 6, defense up level 6. Anything that gives defense up is fantastic. Huge support. And then if you're facing strength, dex, or quick type enemies, attack down level 5, defense down level 5. So obviously they want you to use this in a strength-based team, right? And a strength, probably like a strength powerhouse team, right? Based on his class. I don't think there's any good strength-driven. But I think there's a couple of strength powerhouse that you could use, right? The Magma Kaido and those guys you could kind of cobble together a team. So I think that's kind of what they're shooting for here. But like I said, he's a debuffer, right? So The problem is that on these strength teams, like you typically will have, for example, like Luffy, Kaido, Jack, Law or Kuma, and maybe like Boa, right? So you can get some defense, get some cooldown. But here you don't get any cooldown from him, and his CT is pretty high at 35, so it's going to take a long time to kick off the special. And without those other units there to kind of help booster the team and keep it alive, I'm not really sure that he's going to get a ton of play. To be honest with you, he's not going to somehow like radicalize your strength team to be able to take quick team. The strength team already does so much damage against decks, and I don't see you doing a strength versus strength matchup. Maybe you could, but like it just doesn't kind of make sense. So originally when I saw the special, I thought maybe he was going to try to be like a counter to like the Free Spirit team, right? You have Zoro who is the quick unit, Sanji who's the Dex unit. You have some units like Nami Karina who are the strength unit. So I thought maybe they were going that way originally when I started reading this. But yeah, it's just kind of a bizarre route that they went with that. So we'll have to see what happens and see if he's any good, see if he replaces any of those other legends on the team. But for now, at least, it looks like they want you to put him on a strength team. His special at level 10 can target enemies within a large range for defense down 7 for 20 seconds and attack down level 7 for 20 seconds. So that's actually really good. Still probably not worth a 35. Like maybe if it was like 32, it'd be a little bit better, maybe 30. But like I said, the defense down and attack down is good, but can't really complain about that part. Targets enemies for a 35% HP cut. I would have liked to see this a little bit higher, right? You have that Dex Blackbeard who can do like a 50%. Like it would have been nice if it was a little bit closer. Like if it was like 40%, I think or maybe even like 45, I think it would have been better. Just because, like I said, you don't have the major damage dealers that you have for some of these other teams. So it just kind of is what it is. I would not. Well, it just doesn't make sense that anyone's like, you don't have a lot of damage dealers on the strength team outside of like the Luffy, Kaido, and those guys. So I mean, the 35% cut's okay. I'm not saying it's bad by any means, but I'm just saying it could be a little bit higher there. And then you do Action Bind, 80% chance, which is pretty high. That's awesome on strength, dex, and quick type enemies. So Action Bind's good. Can't really complain. It's a little bit short at 8 seconds. But the fact that it could target multiple enemies is okay. It's not terrible. But like I said, I think it's going to be tough having this Blackbeard kind of take the slots of some of the other strength units that are kind of making up the core team now. Especially when you could use Jack to get almost a 50% HP cut where he only does 35. So kind of is what it is there. So let's look at his GP stats real quick. So his base stats here give strength, int, type, teammate, special, CT, level 2, which is just kind of and speed and critical percent up level 5, and powerhouse get defense, HP up, recovery up level 5. He boosts strength and int units, gives a little bit of CT, a little bit more defense. It's okay. I mean, I don't see anything kind of game breaking in his GP stats. So let's check his GP burst. See what his burst can do. So you just have to wait 40 seconds, which isn't too bad. And you get to use it 2 times. So you target all enemies for 40% HP reduction, and targets teammates with low HP to get a 50% CT reduction. So if you have less than 50%, your special will get fully charged. And targets 2 teammates for 100% chance of haste. See, the one thing I don't really like about this is that when you have double HP cutting mechanics, right, it obviously becomes less effective. If you do the 35% cut first, then you have 65%, and then when you do 40% of that 65%, you just get lower and lower, right, in terms of the total amount of damage that you can do. Now, if you use him with the Luffy, the strength Luffy, maybe that's not a big deal because he can knock out people himself. So if you get people, most of the team below 50% HP using a burst and using his special here, Luffy can probably come in, clean up, and probably take out 5 units without too much problems. So it's interesting. I don't know if you'll see a lot of people switching over to him. Like I still feel like Gear 5 is still leaps and bounds better. Uh, but he might be an option, right? I mean, you could almost kind of guarantee that you'll um, that you'll be able to at least take out whatever team you're facing with using the special. And maybe if you use it once for fight number 1 with your strength team, beat the enemy, and then you use it again for the free spirit team. Again, Luffy, the Psy Luffy can hit really hard, right? G5 Luffy can hit super hard, especially if you have like other units in there like Robin and Koala and those guys who can do some damage as well. So I mean, maybe you'll see some play. What's nice is that the GP special doesn't distinguish that you have to be certain classes, right? So it's kind of a boost to everyone that's on the team. So the more I read it, the more I kind of like it. Out of the stuff on his kit, it's probably the most interesting. And maybe if we do decide to pull, we'll have to test that out maybe on the first day and just see how that works, see how the 40% cut works. And see if it's actually viable to use on there. But yeah, so that is the full Blackbeard unit. Once again, if you just want to see his ink effect, this is what it looks like here. Personally, I think he's a pretty mid unit. I'm kind of disappointed, to be honest. I was expecting him to be much better. Now, I haven't read through the rest of his crew yet, the rare recruits, or I know that they have a Burgess as well there that they released. That's going to be another legend as well. So maybe they get better. But at least for now, he's kind of mid, to be honest. And the disappointing part here is that, as a veteran player and as someone who spends money on the game, I just bought those gem packs and have over 3,000 gems. Like when people buy gem packs, you want to get them excited, right? You want to get them to spend those gems on something good. In this case, unfortunately, I don't know if I'm even going to pull, to be honest with you. Obviously, PKA will be a little bit harder without them, but it's just I don't see a lot of value there, right? I don't see this unit really lasting, more than a month or two, right? And then he'll just go in the dustbin and never be used again. Unlike for the last year, we had Luffy and Shanks and those guys, right? And you still see them seeing play today. And they have good specials and things like that keep them relevant. But I just don't see this Blackbeard being relevant, 2 or 3 months down the line. So unfortunately, he's pretty mid. This is going to be the anniversary mid-beard, so it's up to you guys, of course, if you want to pull. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to pull. I'm leaning towards no, but the multi does go live on the 25th, I believe. So if you are deciding that you are going to pull on this SugoFest, I wish you the best of luck. Maybe if you get him, let me know how you like him. But at least for now, this is Blackbeard, and unfortunately, he's just not the best. So until next time, be kind to each other, and have a good day.